Hollywood stars may appear perfect on screen, but off-camera, many of these iconic actors couldn't go a day without a snort of cocaine. In today's video, let's dive into the lives of the 20 worst drug addicts in the history of Hollywood. Number 1. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is one of Hollywood's most iconic figures, often remembered for her magnetic screen presence. But her troubles with drugs began as a result of the immense pressure she faced in the demanding world of Hollywood. She often found herself in a cycle of needing pills to wake up and perform, and then taking other pills to help her sleep. The reliance affected her professional life significantly, as there were numerous instances where she struggled to show up on time for filming. And when she did, her performance would sometimes be inconsistent due to her medicated state, and this led to tensions with directors and co-stars, and at times it jeopardized her roles in major film projects. Her addiction also had a profound impact on her personal relationship and had constraint on her bank account. Marilyn Monroe's life ended prematurely at the age of 36 after an overdose of barbiturates. Number 2. Chet Baker. Chet Baker's troubles began in the 1950s at a time when he was rising to fame in the jazz world, and his heroin addiction became a central part of his life, overshadowing his incredible talent. The first major impact of his drug use was showing up late to performances, or sometimes not showing up at all. This erratic behavior made it difficult for him to maintain relationships with other musicians and music producers. His spending on drugs drained his resources severely, and he often found himself in debt, and sometimes he even had to pawn his musical instruments to get by. His financial instability led to periods of homelessness and poverty, and he was arrested multiple times for drug-related offenses, which included possession of narcotics. In 1966, Baker was severely beaten during a drug deal gone wrong, resulting in injuries that knocked out most of his front teeth. Number 3. John Belushi. Behind his comedic genius, Belushi fought a fierce battle that ultimately led to his untimely death. The 70s was also so notoriously permissive when it came to drug use, and Belushi was introduced to a lifestyle where drugs were readily available and often used as a means to maintain the relentless pace required by his career. Cocaine provided Belushi the burst of energy he felt he needed to maintain his dynamic performances, but it also led to an addiction that became increasingly difficult to manage. As his fame grew, so did his substance use. Belushi became unpredictable, and his health started to deteriorate, and directors and producers who were once eager to work with him started to hesitate because of his unreliability. Belushi's struggle with drugs ended with his death at the age of 33 from a combined drug intoxication involving cocaine and heroin, a mixture often referred to as a speedball. Number 4. Judy Garland. Beneath the sparkle of her stardom, Judy Garland's issues with drugs started when she was just a young actress under contract with MGM. To help her cope with the exhausting schedules and control her weight, studio executives and doctors prescribed her amphetamine and barbiturates to help her sleep at night. These drugs led to a dependency that she would battle for the rest of her life. These drugs affected her health, causing physical and mental problems. Garland's addiction made her increasingly unreliable professionally. She would show up late to sets or forget lines. This behavior led to her being fired from multiple film projects and gave a huge blow to her career and reputation in Hollywood. Despite these challenges, Garland's talent continued to shine through, and she made several comebacks, delivering performances that reminded the world of her incredible talent. No matter how triumphant these comebacks might have seemed, her addiction cast a long shadow over these achievements. Number 5. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was known for his intense performances, but scarred by his struggles with addiction and personal demons. His problems began to surface after a serious car accident in 1956, which drastically changed his life. The accident left lingering physical pain and emotional trauma which threatened his career. Clift turned increasingly to alcohol and prescription painkillers to reduce the pain. Unfortunately for him, the dependence on these substances was far-reaching, and it began to affect his ability to work. The drugs and alcohol started to dull his once sharp instincts, and his performances became inconsistent. His physical appearance changed, making it difficult to secure the roles that had made him a star. His career declined, and this affected his financial stability, leading to additional stress that fueled his addictions. Filled with so much promise and potential, his career was cut tragically short when he died of a heart attack at the age of 45. Number 6. Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce's relationship with drugs began in the 1950s, and it worsened over time. Initially, he used narcotics recreationally as part of the jazz and comedy club scenes, where such behavior was not uncommon. However, what started as casual use spiraled into full-blown addiction. Drugs became a crutch Bruce relied on to maintain his edge on stage, and his drug use had a severe impact on his professional life. His addiction worsened and began to dull his mental acuity, as he often appeared on stage looking disheveled and sometimes struggled to keep his train of thought. His addiction led to multiple arrests for drug possession and for obscenity due to his provocative content. Lenny Bruce's life came to a premature end at the age of 40, when he died from a drug overdose. Number 7. Robert Mitchum. Despite his successful career, Robert Mitchum faced personal battles with drug use that affected his life, although not to the devastating extent seen in some of his contemporaries. Mitchum's most public encounter with drugs came in 1948, when he was arrested for marijuana possession. This arrest was highly publicized and could have ended his career given the strict moral expectations for Hollywood stars at the time. Mitchum spent a week in jail, and surprisingly, the arrest did not damage his career as much as many predicted. In fact, his bad boy image somewhat bolstered his appeal in Hollywood, where his roles often hinged on playing the rugged outsider. Mitchum's drug use did not seem to spiral into the kind of debilitating addiction, but real struggle was with alcohol, which sometimes led to erratic behavior on set and affected his performance during shoots. Number 8. Billie Holiday. Behind Billie Holiday's mesmerizing performances was a harrow battle with drug addiction that profoundly impacted her career. She started using drugs as a way to cope with the pressures and pains of her life, including a childhood marked by poverty and abuse. Heroin became her substance of choice, and as her career progressed, her addiction grew deeper. Her drug use also made her targeted by the authorities, particularly under the draconian policies of Harry Anslinger, the first commissioner of the U.S. Federal Bureau of Narcotics, who specifically targeted jazz musicians. Holiday was arrested multiple times for narcotics possession, and she served a year in prison in 1947, which was a devastating blow to her career. She also suffered many relationships, which brought her pain, and had legal fees which drained her finances. She passed away in 1959 at the age of 44 under police guard in the hospital after being arrested for drug possession. Number 9. Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake's impact as a major Hollywood star was overshadowed by personal struggles, including a battle with mental health issues and alcoholism. As Lake's fame increased, so did her difficulties, and she started using alcohol as a way to cope with her stress and anxiety. Her alcohol dependence began to affect her professionally, and sometimes her demeanor became increasingly erratic and often clashed with co-stars and directors. Her punctuality and performance became unreliable, and Lake went through multiple marriages and divorces, each adding to her emotional turmoil. Lake was a top earner in Hollywood, but her spending did not decrease when her income faltered, and this caused a problem on her finances. By the 1960s, Lake faced several financial crises, including filing for bankruptcy. She was often seen in poor health and living in reduced circumstances. Lake died in 1973 at the age of 50 from hepatitis A disease complicated by her years of alcohol abuse. Number 10. Frances Farmer's rise in Hollywood came after she won a trip to the Soviet Union and subsequently gained attention from Paramount Pictures. Farmer's issues with substance abuse are not as well documented as other stars from her era. It is known that she drank alcohol, and her erratic behavior has often been attributed to this. However, her most significant struggles were with her mental health. Farmer's behavior became increasingly unpredictable, and her relationships with colleagues, family, and friends suffered as a result. Her difficulties came to a head when she was arrested in 1942 for driving with her headlights on during a wartime blackout. This incident marked the beginning of a series of encounters with law enforcement and the judicial system, which eventually resulted in her being declared mentally incompetent. She underwent various treatments, including electroconvulsive therapy and otomy, which deeply impacted her both physically and mentally. Frances Farmer died in 1970 at the age of 56. Number 11. Scott Fitzgerald. Scott Fitzgerald's battle with alcohol not only impacted his health and personal relationships, but also his career as a writer. Fitzgerald often drank to cope with the stress of his literary career and the high expectations placed upon him after the success of his early works. His addiction led to periods of writer block and an inconsistent output that frustrated his publishers and readers alike. His work often suffered in quality due to his drinking, for example. Despite the success of The Great Gatsby, Fitzgerald struggled to replicate its acclaim in subsequent works, largely due to his worsening alcohols. In the late 1930s, he worked as a screenwriter. However, his drinking continued to interfere with his ability to work effectively, and disappointments marked his Hollywood years. His constant alcohol consumption led to multiple health issues, including heart problems, and Fitzgerald's life was cut short at the age of 44 due to a heart attack. Number 12. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge's personal struggles include battles with mental health issues and addiction. Her career reached historic heights when she became the first African-American woman to be nominated for an Academy Award. Despite this success, she faced constant battles against racial discrimination in Hollywood, and Dandridge found herself increasingly turning to prescription medications, which were initially prescribed to help her manage her anxiety and sleep issues. Dependency on these medications impacted her career, and her ability to perform consistently at the high standards she was known for began to falter. She began to decline in her career, and this added to her stress and deepened her dependency on drugs. Dandridge suffered from depression, and her mental health declined as her life spiraled out of control. Her tragic life came to an early end when she died of an accidental drug overdose at the age of 42 in 1965. Number 13. Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker's life faced a severe struggle with heroin. He started drugs at a young age when he was involved in a car accident and was prescribed morphine for the pain. This exposure led to a lifelong battle with addiction. Heroin in particular became his drug of choice. Throughout his life on stage, Parker was under the influence but able to perform. His unreliability frustrated bandmates and club owners, tarnishing his reputation in the music community. The money he made quickly went towards feeding his addiction, leaving him in constant debt, and at times even homeless. Health-wise, Parker's addiction took a severe toll. He was hospitalized several times for drug-related issues, including ulcers and cirrhosis, which were exacerbated by his drug use and irregular lifestyle. His physical appearance also changed dramatically, and he aged prematurely, and his once sharp demeanor became increasingly haggard. Parker died untimely at the age of 34. Number 14. Belinda Lee. Belinda Lee's life was complicated by intense emotional and relational turmoil, and she was known for her passionate and conflicted personal relationships, which often made headlines more than her professional work. Her lifestyle was marked by the high-pressure environment of the entertainment industry during the 1950s and 60s, which often included parties and socializing where alcohol was prevalent. She struggled with handling the stress and expectations placed upon her, which led to a lifestyle that could be erratic and self-destructive. Her personal issues took center stage, and her reputation in the film industry suffered, and her career began to decline. Belinda Lee's life was cut short in a car accident in 1961, while she was in California at the age of 25. Number 15. Clara Bobo's rise to fame was a classic tale of rags to riches, as her success in Hollywood came quickly after she won a magazine contest that landed her roles in the film industry. The pressure that came with her rapid fame and the intense scrutiny of the public eye began to take a toll on her mental well-being. Bo experienced significant mental health issues, which were exacerbated by the stresses of her career. She suffered from insomnia and bouts of severe depression and anxiety, which impacted her ability to work consistently. The constant media scrutiny and the betrayal by those she trusted with her financial affairs only deepened her distress. The combination of public scandals, personal betrayals, and her ongoing mental health issues led Bo to retire from acting prematurely, and she passed away in 1965 from a heart attack at the age of 60. Number 16. George Sanders. George Sanders faced a complex personal life of depression and a sense of disillusionment with his career and life, which ultimately led to his tragic passing. Sanders was as a lifelong sufferer of a chronic case of boredom, which manifested in various aspects of his life. He suffered from moments of severe depression, which seemed to deepen as his career progressed, despite his public persona of effortless charm and wit. His personal dissatisfaction didn't seem to be alleviated by financial stability or professional success. His wealth did not bring him happiness, and he continued to express a deep-seated ennui that money and success couldn't cure. The culmination of his struggles was his death in 1972, after his body was later found with empty bottles of the barbiturate Natol, along with a note that read, "Dear world, I am leaving because I am bored. I feel I have lived long enough. I'm leaving you with your worries in this sweet cesspool. Good luck." Number 17. Jane Eagles. As Eagles' career progressed, she increasingly turned to alcohol and drugs, and her addiction began as a way to cope with the pressures of her career and the high expectations placed upon her in the competitive entertainment industry. Her reliability became an issue when she missed performances, or was unable to complete projects, for example, during the run of the play Rain, in which she delivered what many considered to be her signature performance. Eagles missed several performances due to her ill health attributed to her substance abuse. Eagles suffered from multiple health issues, including severe nervous system damage. Her rapid and visible physical decline affected her once luminous appearance, and Eagles' life came to an end at the young age of 39. In 1929, the official cause of death was listed as a combination of multiple ailments, including alcohol and heroin toxicity. Number 18. Buster Keaton. Keaton's problems with alcohol began to surface more prominently during the 1930s after signing with MGM, which he famously described as the worst mistake of his career. His divorce from his first wife, Natalie Talmadge, contributed to a deepening of his struggles. His drinking became increasingly evident as it began to affect his professional life. Keaton's alcoholism led to a noticeable decline in the quality of his work. His marriage to Natalie Talmadge ended in 1932, partly due to his drinking, and the financial strain caused by her extravagant spending, and caused a Great Depression to Keaton. By the mid-1930s, his health had deteriorated to the point where he was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown. He remarried happily to Eleanor Norris, who played a role in helping him overcome his addiction to alcohol. With her support, Keaton regained his health. Number 19. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn struggled deeply with many vices, including alcohol and other substances issues that impacted his career, personal life, and health in profound and destructive ways. In Hollywood, Errol was famous for his hedonistic lifestyle, which included heavy drinking and parties. This lifestyle became an integral part of his identity both on and off the screen, but it took a heavy toll on his life professionally. Flynn's substance abuse began to affect his work during the peak of his career, leading to unreliable behavior on set, including lateness and unpreparedness, which frustrated directors and co-stars alike. Flynn's excessive drinking and lifestyle finally caught up with him, as he suffered from various health issues, including heart problems, liver disease, and chronic back pain. Errol Flynn's life ended tragically when he died of a heart attack in 1959, at the age of 50. Number 20. Richard Burton. Richard Burton wrestled with a heavy drinking problem that began in his early years. His love for alcohol was well known in the entertainment industry and became almost as legendary as his acting skills. Burton's alcoholism had a mixed impact. On one hand, it sometimes fueled the intense, passionate performances that audiences and critics loved, and on the other, it led to inconsistency in his performance and reliability. His persistent alcohol abuse began to erode his once stellar reputation. Directors and producers became wary of his unpredictable nature, and he suffered from numerous health problems related to his drinking, including cirrhosis of the liver and kidney issues. Richard Burton died in 1984 at the age of 58 from a cerebral hemorrhage, a condition undoubtedly worsened by his years of alcohol abuse. If you like this video, do not forget to share and subscribe. Also, let us know in the comments who gets your votes as the worst drug addict in Hollywood history.